Regard. Question number 5, the Honourable Parekura Horomia.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Māori Affairs, does the Minister stand by all his statements?
The Honourable Dr. Peter Sharples.
Yes.
The Honourable Parekura Horomia.
Speaker, when the Minister said that if privatisation of state assets occurs, it must be managed in a manner that is consistent with Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and is that position consistent with the interim recommendation of the Waitangi Tribunal?
The Honourable Dr. Peter Sharples.
Yes.
The Honourable Parekura Horomia.
Mr. Speaker, what advice did he give to the Minister of Finance insofar as the transfer of 49% shareholding interests in state assets is not a contravention of Te Tiriti o Waitangi?
The Honourable Dr. Peter Sharples.
As Minister, I did not give any advice to the Minister of Finance on that particular point.
The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
To the Minister, what assurance did he seek from the Minister of Finance and Treaty Settlements that the transfer of 49% shareholding interests in state assets is not a contravention of Te Tiriti o Waitangi?
The Honourable Dr. Peter Sharples.
It's simple that we've been working with iwi leaders and iwi groups on this whole issue. At the end of the day, it's their viewpoint that we put forward.
Point of order, the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
The question was very specific.
It
It
was
asked
indeed.
what assurance did he seek from the Ministers of Finance and Treaty Settlements?
The member may repeat a question in full.
What assurance did he seek from the Ministers of Finance and Treaty Settlements that the transfer of 49% shareholding interests in state assets is not a contravention of Te Tiriti o Waitangi?
The Honourable Dr. Peter Sharples.
As I inferred in my earlier answer, I arranged the meetings and the iwi leaders made that submission themselves to the Prime Minister.
Point of order, Grant Robertson.
I'm sorry to say that still doesn't answer the very direct question about what assurances the Minister sought from two other ministers.
The difficulty we face is the Minister's talking about, in his answer, talking about arranging meetings, whereas the questioners have asked what assurances he sought from the relevant minister, the Minister of Finance and the Minister responsible for treaty settlements as to whether or not partial sale of state assets, these particular ones involved, would be a breach of the Treaty of Waitangi. And the Minister's not really made any attempt to answer that at all. I mean, he either sought some assurances in this area or he didn't. And I'm not saying how the Minister should answer, but to say something about the question would be helpful. The Honourable Dr. Peter Sharples.
I attended one of those meetings, there's been several, and my understanding is that assurances were given to the iwi leaders after I arranged for them to meet with the Prime Minister rather than me seek the particular assurance.
I thank the Minister. The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Can the Minister clarify what assurances were given to iwi leaders with regards to the transfer of 49% shareholding interests in state assets to assure him that it was not a contravention of Te Tiriti o Waitangi?
The Honourable Dr. Peter Sharples.
My understanding is discussions are ongoing and have been going on for some time, and I guess that's probably the question you should direct to the Minister responsible for those issues.
Does one of the members wish to raise a point of order or not? Because I'm about to go to the next. The Honourable. Well, actually, I'll hear from the Honourable Trevor Mallard. Point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I think the fact that it took me a second to jump up was an indication that I thought you were going to intervene to indicate to the Minister that he should answer the question as opposed to making passing reference to meetings and not being specific as to the assurances that he took on board as he was asked by Nanaia Mahuta.
The reason why I paused myself, I was actually thinking about the Minister's answer, because what the Minister, if I recollect correctly, said was that certain assurances were given to iwi leaders. He implied that he wasn't actually responsible for any assurances given by those other ministers to those iwi leaders. And as I thought about his answer, I believed actually he had answered the question insofar as he was indicating he was simply not responsible for what the ministers actually said to those iwi leaders. The wording of the question, I think, enabled the minister to answer the way he did. Grant Robertson, point of order.
The supplementary question from Nanaia Mahuta related to the previous answer that the minister had given, where he said that he had been at a meeting where assurances were given. And so I think it was a legitimate supplementary question to follow on from that to then ask about what...
The member's quite right. It was a legitimate supplementary question. What I'm saying is I think the minister's answer was also legitimate in that he sidestepped the assurances given because he's not responsible for them. And I think that I can't ask the minister to answer for something he's not responsible for. But the question was certainly legitimate. Point of order, the Honourable Parekura Horomia.
Mr. Speaker, the minister referred, in his reply, said that he referred it to the minister responsible. The Minister of Māori Affairs has a responsibility of duty of care to Māori people in this nation. He is responsible for that.
Well, the Minister of Māori Affairs can't be responsible for everything to do with Māori people. I mean, when other ministers are involved, obviously the minister has answered in terms of what he did with respect to certain meetings and certain assurances being sought, but the minister has not answered in terms of what actual assurances were given on the basis, I'm assuming, that he believes he's not responsible for those. And I think I'm correct in that assumption. That's why I can't take the matter any further. Point of order, the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
The full extent of the question, however, relates to his assurance. What assurances did those ministers give to give him assurance that the transfer of 49% of state-owned assets would not contravene Te Tiriti o Waitangi, which is his responsibility?
Was that a further supplementary question?
That was the supplementary question.
That was not, as I heard, the previous supplementary question, and that's why I've ruled on the matter the way I have. Because if assurances were given by another minister to any iwi leaders, the Minister of Māori Affairs is not responsible for those assurances, and that's why I believe he's answered the way he has, and I'm not in a position to require him to answer any way differently from that. I mean, the member could reword the question perhaps in a way that because the member still has further supplementary questions. Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallon.
Mr. Speaker, your memory is normally really good. Mr. Speaker, this might be the exception that proves the rule. I think you received an assurance from Nanaia Mahuta as to what was in her question, and you said you had a different recollection. So I think her recollection, as she was reading from the same piece of paper, could well be accurate.
I think I'll hear from Michael Woodhouse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In defence of your memory, I have a very clear recollection that the Minister of Māori Affairs answered in respect of the initial question about what assurances were sought, that he facilitated a number of meetings and in fact mentioned the Prime Minister. He did not say he was at all of them and therefore could not speak to the specific assurances given by the Treaty Minister and the Minister of Finance to a third party, to iwi, which was the subsequent question, and therefore his answer was perfectly in order.
I've ruled on the matter now, and the member does have further supplementary questions to pursue the matter if she should wish to. The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Can the Minister assure the House that based on the assurances given by the Ministers for Finance and Treaty Settlements, that the transfer of 49% of shareholding in state-owned assets is not a contravention of Te Tiriti o Waitangi?
The Honourable Dr. Peter Sharples.
Yes.
Question number... I beg your pardon, the Right Honourable Winston Peters, supplementary question.
Can the Minister confirm that he was at a meeting where he heard iwi being given certain assurances, to the extent that, having heard those assurances, he has advised the Prime Minister that the process should be put on hold until the Waitangi Tribunal reports at the end of September?
The Right Honourable Dr. Peter Sharples.
The iwi didn't ask that, and the meetings I talk about were well before the tribunal coming into the picture.
Question number 6, Maggie Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.